The unexpected truth revealed, Millionaire shouts, "Nobody can silence me," but the employee's ambition bursts forth. In the heart of Maplewood, where the aroma of freshly baked pies lingered in the humid summer air, the townsfolk lounged on their porches, exchanging friendly waves and lively banter. It was here that Jake, a 35-year-old mechanic, found himself shrouded in grief after losing his father, the anchor of his existence. Life had been a constant struggle since, a series of relentless waves crashing over him while he worked tirelessly to provide for his 2 children. Every day, he embodied the quintessential American dreamer, pouring sweat and determination into his work, praying for brighter days ahead. Yet, as fate would have it, the universe devised a cruel reminder of his battles when Ryan, his high school classmate turned millionaire, rolled back into town in a gleaming, cherry-red Sport Car.at. The annual charity fundraising event, the local community buzzed with anticipation. Jake stood among the crowd, a knot tightening in his chest as he watched Ryan stroll onto the stage, dripping confidence while the audience hungrily adulated him. With broad smiles and gleaming eyes, they clapped, eager to hear about Ryan's glamorous life. Success, Ryan declared, is all about desire and determination. Each word he said felt like nails on a chalkboard for Jake, igniting old rivalries and feeding the insecurities that lay just below the surface. How could Ryan, seemingly untouched by hardship, speak so casually about triumph when Jake's fight had been for survival? Then, amidst cheer and laughter, the atmosphere shifted. Their eyes locked, and an electricity crackled in the air. "You're just lazy, Jake. If you wanted it badly enough, you'd have it." Ryan's words struck like a lightning bolt. The crowd whispered. Jake's face flushed with indignation. No, this was not the reality he accepted. "Nobody can silence me," he shouted, his voice echoing in the charged room. The quiet dimmed, all eyes turned to him, with raw emotion surging, he poured forth his heart. "My father worked his hands to the bone. He showed me what it means to sacrifice everything for family." Tears glistened in his eyes as he recounted late nights under the hood of a car, the smell of motor oil mixing with the scent of his father's old flannel shirt the last time they worked side by side. As he spoke, Jake saw the crowd shift, their admiration for Ryan dimming in the stark light of his own truth. "Today, we measure wealth not by the zeros in our bank accounts, but by the love we share and the efforts we make for each other." The silence was deafening, heavy with understanding and introspection. In that moment, Maplewood began to see the real riches that lay in their community. But as Jake inhaled deeply, ready to continue, uncertainty rippled through the air. Would this confrontation birth change, or would lingering questions weigh them down? How would Jake face Ryan again, and what would it mean for their lives in this small town so desperate for clarity and connection? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Jake stood on that stage, hope flickered in the crowd like a candle's flame, fragile yet steadfast. He could feel the tension of an unfinished story, the hearts of the townsfolk swaying like branches in the wind, poised for something greater. But Ryan remained silent, the once boisterous millionaire's smile now waning. Would he fight back or reflect on what Jake had unveiled? The air hummed with unsaid words, eager to find their home in the hearts of Maplewood. The tale was far from over, the next chapter was on the horizon, waiting to be written. The spotlight shifted, illuminating Jake as he stood on that stage, heart racing and breath hitching in his throat. Every gaze in the room stayed locked on him, their expressions a mix of admiration and surprise. In that split second, he realized he had taken the first step towards something monumental, a shift not just for himself, but for the entire town of Maplewood. Across the room, Ryan's face was unreadable. The fire that once blazed in his eyes flickered, giving way to uncertainty. Jake felt the weight of the moment bearing down on him, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. What would come next? Would Ryan retaliate, or would he recognize the truth in Jake's passionate words? The crowd stirred, whispers bubbling beneath the surface. A woman near the back cleared her throat, and with a nervous smile said, "We believe in you, Jake." Her words hung in the air, and one by one, others began to chime in encouragement pouring forth like a warm embrace. Ryan's jaw tightened as he glanced at the crowd, the momentum tipping away from him. "You think that's all it takes? A few nice words? Life's not about sentiment, Jake. It's about winning." His tone was sharp, the bravado cracking just enough to reveal a vulnerable edge. A murmur rippled through the audience, and Jake could feel their pulse quicken. This was no longer a battle between two men. It was about the very essence of their lives, dreams, and the values that shaped their hometown. Taking a deep breath, Jake knew he had to channel his father's strength. He leaned into the mic and replied, "Winning. You think that's all it's about? My father taught me that the true victories are the ones built on love, hard work, and sacrifice." The truth rang clear, echoing around the space filled with so many memories. He could almost hear his father's voice as he spoke, guiding him. Seeing the doubt in Ryan's eyes gave Jake newfound resolve. "You've made money, Ryan, but how many lives have you touched? How many families have you helped?" Jake could see the crowd beginning to nod, hearts swelling with pride for their own. "We're all tired of living in the shadow of what wealth looks like. We want hope. We want dreams that aren't tangled in greed." With each word, the energy in the room shifted, a wave of unity washing over them. Ryan clenched his fists, his perfect world fracturing in the face of the unexpected truth. "You really think people care about that mushy stuff? This is a world of competition." "Yes," Jake interjected, his voice rising above the whispers. "But it's also a world of community. We thrive together, not divided by what we own." The crowd erupted in applause, a surge of warm energy flowing like sunlight breaking through a storm. People were on their feet, clapping and shouting affirmations, as Jake felt a glimmer of his own future shining through the heaviness he carried. But amid the excitement, a flicker of fear crept into Jake's heart. Could they keep this momentum alive? Would this change fizzle out when the event was over? As he caught sight of Ryan again, he saw something different, a hint of admiration mingled with resentment. In that moment, Jake realized that while they had turned a corner, the path ahead would be fraught with challenges. Would Ryan be willing to rethink his views, or would he double down, determined to prove his worth? The crowd buzzed with energy, but the tension remained electric. As Jake stepped down from the stage, a sense of uncertainty lingered in the air. What would tomorrow bring? And would Maplewood truly come together to transform under the weight of their newfound understanding? Jake could feel the future beckoning, filled with possibility. The question was whether he and his town had the courage to seize it. With every step away from the stage, he knew one thing for certain: their story was just beginning, and the next chapter was poised to be a transformational one. The atmosphere in the room shifted as Jake stepped off the stage, adrenaline still pumping through his veins. The applause echoed in his ears, a mixture of gratitude and encouragement from the townspeople who had been waiting for someone to speak out. Yet, a gnawing doubt clawed at his stomach. What now? The applause would fade, but the realities of Maplewood remained. Jake looked around, taking in the faces of his neighbors' friends, children, parents, and saw hope blooming in their expressions. Was it possible that they could forge a new path together? He caught sight of Ryan, still seething at the edge of the crowd. Despite the rift that had grown between them, there lingered an unexpected bond, one rooted in their shared history. The uncertainty etched on Ryan's face hinted at a stirring desire to change, even if it was buried deep beneath his bravado. "Jake!" A voice broke through his thoughts. It was Mara, the kind-hearted woman who had stood up earlier. She wove her way through the throng, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "You were incredible. I've never seen anyone stand up to Ryan like that." "Thanks, Mara," he said, his smile faltering a bit. "But it's just words. I have to make sure the actions follow." Trust me, this is just the beginning, she replied, resolutely. People are energized. We need to capitalize on this moment. You need to organize a town hall meeting to discuss real change, things like sustainable jobs, community projects, real solutions. Her enthusiasm sparked a flicker of determination in Jake. A town hall? Do you think people will come? Absolutely. They want to support you, to hear more about your vision. Her eyes glimmered with urgency. You're giving them hope, Jake. Don't let that slip away. We need you. He nodded, feeling the warmth of resolve encircling him. Okay. Let us do it. I'll set it up for next week. As he spoke, he felt the presence of Ryan lurking nearby. Jake caught a glimpse of him, arms crossed tightly over his chest, a scowl etched deep on his face. It left him wondering if Ryan would exert his influence or if he may actually soften in the face of community uprising. That night, as Jake lay in bed, he tossed and turned, reflecting on the talk with Mara. What if he could inspire not only the townspeople but even Ryan? Could he reach him? It was a flimsy hope to cling to, yet there it was, glowing faintly like embers in the dark. Yet, as dawn broke, Jake felt the weight of his plans. Each decision echoed through him. The town hall wasn't just a meeting, it was a battleground for ideas. It would bring forth all the dreams of a prosperous Maplewood but also fear of the underlying conflicts, especially with Ryan. Would everyone rally behind change, or would Ryan turn his followers against him? Jake steeled himself, resolved to channel the current of momentum he felt. It was more than politics, it was about families, futures, and choices that shaped lives. The time for transformation wasn't tomorrow, it started now. When he headed to breakfast, he found his family gathered at the table. They weren't just another audience, they would be allies. His sister Lily looked up from her plate. What is going on, Jake? You seem different. I am, he replied, meeting her curious gaze. I want to make a change, Lily. Something that matters. But how? She asked, tilting her head. A smile broke across his face, full of possibilities. With everyone's help. We're going to have a town hall meeting. Her expression lit up. That could be amazing, Jake. Yes. But I need you all with me. It's going to be tough, but this is our chance. As they sat, discussing ideas and strategies for the upcoming meeting, Jake's heart swelled with hope. The journey wouldn't be easy, but united, they had strength. The sun bathed Maplewood in an inviting glow, but Jake couldn't shake the feeling that dark clouds loomed on the horizon. Would Ryan push back harder than he expected? Would the town rally together? He'd soon find out. That in the distance, shadows danced against the rising sun. The battle for Maplewood was just beginning, and as Jake took another bite of his breakfast, he knew there was a storm approaching. Jake spent the day planning, his mind racing between ideas for the upcoming town hall meeting. He scribbled down notes, trying to capture the energy he felt in the room just hours before. This was more than just a gathering for him, it was a rallying cry. Jake was determined to confront the status quo head-on, but the nagging image of Ryan haunted his thoughts like an overcast sky. That he decided to take a walk around town, hoping to gather additional inspiration. As he wandered past familiar storefronts and the old park where he had played as a kid, he soaked in the atmosphere, needing to connect with the heart of Maplewood. Vibrant flowers spilled from windowsills, and the laughter of children echoed across the street, yet the tension within him didn't dissipate. Jake! A voice called out, pulling him from his reverie. It was Eliza, a journalist from the local paper. Her camera hung heavy around her neck like a silent observer to the developments brewing in their town. Hey, Eliza. Jake replied, grabbing the hat from his sun-kissed hair. What's up? I was hoping to get your perspective on your speech last night. People are buzzing about it. She grinned, her curiosity evident. Honestly, I'm just trying to keep the momentum going. There are bigger issues we need to address, he admitted, uncertainty creeping back in. I'm organizing a town hall meeting for next week. Perfect. She exclaimed, eyes alight with excitement. Maplewood needs this, Jake. You're inspiring everyone. But there are whispers about Ryan possibly speaking again. Any thoughts? He felt a shiver run down his spine. I can't let him derail this. We need unity. Her gaze turned serious. If it comes down to it, you need to be ready. It's not just about the meeting, it's about the future of this town. Jake nodded, appreciating her honesty. With another few minutes of conversation, he felt fortified, but the gnawing anxiety over Ryan never fully vanished. That evening, he gathered his family again. They sat in the living room, brainstorming ways to motivate people to show up. His parents suggested flyers, while Lily proposed a social media campaign to stir excitement. As they discussed, he felt a surge of strength. But just as hope began to flourish, the familiar name pierced the atmosphere. What if Ryan shows up and tries to scare people away? Lily asked, her brows knitting together. A moment of silence fell over them, thick with concern. If he tries, we can't back down, Jake replied firmly, even as doubt flickered in his chest. This is about our families and what we want for Maplewood. As they wrapped up for the night, Jake retreated to his room, heart still unsettled. He pulled out his journal to gather his thoughts, but the pages blurred before him. What if the very person he was trying to reach would instead cut him down? The next morning, Jake's phone buzzed with a message from Mara. We need to talk. There's something major with the town council. Come to the cafe. Curiosity piqued, Jake hurried over. As he entered, the smell of fresh coffee filled the air, wrapping around him like a warm hug. But the seriousness in Mara's eyes immediately doused his optimism. Jake, you won't believe this, she said, barely letting him sit. The mayor is backing Ryan for something big, a project that could change everything. And they want to announce it at your town hall. What? He felt the world shift beneath him. What about our plans? Mara continued, they aim to use it to discredit what you're trying to do. We have to figure out how to counter this. Jake clenched his fists. The stakes were higher than he had anticipated. He had thought of the town hall as a launch pad for hope, not a battleground. As the cafe buzzed with the chatter of customers, he stared blankly. Jake could feel it, the storm wasn't just approaching, it was right at their doorstep. And he was about to face it head-on. But would it break him, or could this unexpected challenge be the very catalyst for change he and the town needed? Determined, he caught Mara's gaze. We won't let them silence us. We'll find a way to turn this around. But as hope fought against despair, Jake couldn't ignore the gnawing dread deep in his gut. What if he couldn't? He mustered a smile, but inside, he was haunted by the echo of uncertainty. What if this twisted turn could fracture the town's fragile unity, or worse, his already diminished connection with Ryan? And as the weight of the truth bore down on him, he knew regardless of the outcome, everything would change. He stepped out of the cafe, ready to battle the winds of change, but unsure if he was brave enough for the fight ahead. Would he rally the community behind him, or watch it all slip away? The answer awaited him around the corner. Jake stood outside the cafe, the crisp air biting into his skin. Maplewood stretched before him, a blend of potential and challenge. He took a deep breath, wanting to absorb every detail, the way the sun sparkled against the windows of the town hall, how the leaves danced in the whispering wind. If only optimism could drown out the dread tightening in his chest. That he made his way home, a fiery determination igniting within him. He needed to gather his supporters, motivate everyone to stand tall against Ryan and the mayor's plans. It was time to light the spark of hope in the hearts of Maplewood's citizens. Back in his living room, his family gathered around the table like soldiers preparing for battle. Jake's mom spread out a bunch of flyers they had mocked up, colorful and eye-catching. They would announce the meeting and reinforce the message: unity was the key. Look at these. Lily exclaimed, pointing to the bold letters. We can hang them up all over town. Everyone deserves to know what's at stake. Exactly, Jake said, a spark lighting his voice. It's not just about what Ryan wants, it's about what we deserve. His dad chimed in, getting people excited is important, but we also need to prepare for the tough questions. What will they say if Ryan speaks out against you? The weight of that question hung in the air. Jake felt tension tighten around him. If Ryan brought his crowd, if he garnered support, it could flip the whole town upside down. Jake's heart raced at the thought. Another fight with Ryan showed no signs of avoiding a confrontation. We need some strong points, Jake said, tapping his fingers against the table. We need to highlight what we love about Maplewood, why we're here, and how we plan to make it better. We have to present a vision for the future. Maybe gather some stories from locals. His mom suggested, her voice steady. Show them what Maplewood truly means to us. Ideas began to flow, and Jake could feel a flicker of hope. They brainstormed the personal anecdotes, the memories rooted in the community, moments that brought smiles to faces. It reminded Jake of the very essence of their town, the laughter, the shared meals, friendly faces. By the time the sun dipped below the horizon, a plan was taking shape. Yet the knots in Jake's stomach persisted. Late into the night, he couldn't find sleep. As he lay in bed, his mind raced with possibilities and obstacles. The idea that Ryan could twist the narrative terrified him. What if he turned the community against him? What if everything Jacob cared about, his dreams, his vision for stability and growth, came crashing down? He rolled over, staring at the ceiling, feeling lost in a sea of anxious thoughts. It was then he remembered the challenges the town had always overcome together. They had faced storms, broken pavement, and debates larger than themselves. They had banded together to rebuild, to thrive. And that was what Jake had to champion. The next morning came quickly. With a new resolve ignited within him, Jake gathered his materials and headed to the town square. He was prepared. He had spoken to business owners, fellow parents at school, even neighbors he barely knew. Their shared stories formed the backbone of his message. As he set up for the town hall meeting, a small knot of people began to gather. Faces he recognized began to fill the space, and he fed off the energy. But then, a shadow crossed his path. Ryan appeared, flanked by a band of supporters, their expressions a mix of accusation and scorn. The crowd parted for him, an icy chill replacing the warmth of camaraderie Jake had felt moments ago. "Isn't it cute?" Ryan said, his tone dripping with disdain. "Jake thinks he can rally this town. People want progress, not nostalgia." Gasps rippled through the attendees. Jake's heart sank, but his determination flared. "I'm not afraid of change, Ryan," Jake started, forcing confidence into his voice. "But it has to be the right kind of change, one that honors our roots and unites us instead of tearing us apart." The crowd shifted, some nodding in agreement. But Jake felt the battle lines being redrawn. What Ryan did next, however, left Jake frozen. With a confident smirk, Ryan raised his hand and shouted, "Nobody can silence me. I know you all listen to me. But what you don't know, is how this fight truly began." Everyone murmured, intrigue mingling with tension. Jake sensed something massive could unravel. As Ryan prepared to speak, Jake wondered, could this declaration turn the tide back in his favor, or destroy all he had worked for? Only the coming moments would reveal the truth. Ryan's words hung heavy in the air, a weight that could topple the fragile balance Jake had worked so hard to maintain. The crowd, restless and curious, leaned in, eyes narrowing with anticipation. What could Ryan say that would change everything? Jake clenched his fists, his heart pounding in rhythm with the murmurs swirling around him. He couldn't let Ryan's bravado intimidate him. He took a deep breath, grounding himself in the mission that had brought him here. "Let us hear what he has to say," Jake murmured to the people nearby, trying to keep morale up as he fiended for a stronger front. He watched as Ryan prepared to unleash whatever power he thought he held. Ryan's confident smile sent a shiver down Jake's spine. The crowd had turned, some curious, others skeptical. Could Ryan sway their opinions with a single revelation? What you all don't know, Ryan began, voice booming, is that I've been in talks with some powerful investors. They believe in Maplewood's potential, but I can only help if we move forward. Nostalgia? He scoffed. That's just a comfort blanket. You need someone who can actually get things done. Jake could sense the hesitation in the crowd, could feel the pulse of doubt throbbing through the air. Some faces shifted, their expressions unreadable. A few looked away, processing the implications of Ryan's words. He's just throwing out big names to scare you, Jake interjected, forcing confidence into his tone. This isn't about investors. It's about a community that wants to work together. Money can't buy soul. But Ryan wasn't finished. And while your little stories may be sweet, he continued, his voice edging on mocking, they won't pay the bills. The truth is what truth? A voice called from the back of the crowd, discontent rippling through the listeners. Jake glimpsed an older gentleman leaning forward. Alan, a local shop owner, had always been respected in town. This was Jake's chance. That Maplewood needs real change. How can you say you're fighting for us when you barely understand our struggles? Alan pressed, his voice rich with experience and sincerity. Ryan faltered briefly. This isn't about understanding. It's about getting results. He retorted, but his bravado faltered, revealing cracks in his armor. Jake felt a stirring, the energy of unity beginning to rise, but he knew he had to seize this moment. Lifting his gaze to the crowd, he shouted, "We're not just a market to sell, Ryan. We're a family. Every business, every story, it all matters." He could hear the gasps and murmurs behind him. The crowd began to rally, tension shifting to shared determination as Jake sensed the potential for momentum. Then Ryan leaned in, lowering his voice theatrically. "Did you all know that Maplewood wasn't always so small? This town has a history of forgetting its roots. I'm not the villain here, I'm the one trying to bring our town into the future. And Jake," he paused dramatically, "you're standing in the way." The crowd grew restless again, and Jake's mind raced. Ryan was a master at playing the crowd, twisting narratives to his advantage. Could he turn the narrative one more time and expose the truth? Then Ryan continued, "What Jake doesn't want you to know is that this fight isn't just about our town. It's personal. It always has been." Gasps erupted, and a palpable sense of intrigue overcame the crowd. Jake's stomach twisted. What did Ryan mean? What personal agenda could he possibly have? All eyes turned to Jake, in that charged moment of silence filled with anticipation. His heart hammered in his chest, feeling as if all of Maplewood's future lay within this fragile space. Did Ryan hold some bombshell revelation that could ruin him? Or was this just another attempt to intimidate him? Jake needed to be ready. As the crowd focused intensely, he had to prepare himself. The truth hung like a dark cloud, poised to either storm over them or help them break free. Could he stand tall, remain unshaken, and expose the reality for what it was? The future felt uncertain, woven together around one question: what would Ryan reveal next? Jake's mind raced, the weight of Ryan's words pressing down like a heavy anchor. The crowd shifted uneasily, their whispers mingling with the chill in the air. He could see the uncertainty reflected in their faces, and his stomach churned with the thought of what might come next. Personal? Jake echoed, trying to regain control of the atmosphere. What does that even mean, Ryan? Are you talking about money, or are you talking about your own shame? He hoped the challenge would deflect the crowd's attention from their doubts. Ryan smirked, the corners of his mouth curling with smug satisfaction. "Oh, Jake, isn't it fascinating how easily a town forgets?" He paused, letting the silence linger. "Let me remind you." He took a step closer, his movements deliberate, almost theatrical. "My family owned the biggest farm in Maplewood before you lot drove us out." Gasps erupted around him. Jake felt the crowd collectively inhale, the tension tightening around them like a noose. Memories stirred in the air a time of prosperity, and the fall that followed. The stories of Ryan's family had become local legend, whispered among the older generations with a mixture of reverence and resentment. Is that what this is about? Jake shot back, refusing to let Ryan gain any power. You want revenge? You think coming back here threatening us is going to bring that back? Is it revenge or reclamation? Ryan fired back, his voice steady like a drumbeat. You don't understand what it's like to lose everything. To watch your legacy carved away while you stand by helplessly. Maplewood used to mean something, but now it's just a ghost of what it was. Jake felt a pang in his chest. There was truth in Ryan's pain, but it wasn't a valid reason to steamroll over the community they had built. And destroying what we have left is your solution? Is turning us against each other really what you think will rebuild this town? Ryan shrugged, almost nonchalantly. I'm just giving people a chance to decide if they want to cling to nostalgia or move into the now. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Jake could sense the uncertainty growing. They had come to support him, but seeds of doubt were sown deep. What were they really willing to sacrifice? Real change comes from unity, not division. Jake's voice rose above the growing chatter. We can acknowledge our past, but we must build a future together with each other, not against each other. Some in the crowd nodded, their conviction seemingly reignited, but others looked away, conflicted. The struggle was palpable. How could he convince them that Ryan's vision led to nothing but destruction? Suddenly, an elderly woman cried out, "Do we really want to go back to the way things were? Or do we dare to dream for a better future?" The crowd hesitated, torn. Jake could feel the urgency of the moment. It was the perfect time to strengthen their bond. Maplewood is our home, he pleaded, taking a step forward. We have roots here, stories to share. We owe it to ourselves to protect what we have built and guide it with love, not fear. We can rise above these empty promises. Ryan scoffed, but the murmurs around him grew louder. He could see he was losing grip, and for the first time, uncertainty flickered in his eyes. What do you think will really happen if you choose to fight for your dreams? Ryan taunted, trying to regain the narrative. You think those who have the money will care about your dreams? Before Jake could respond, Alan, the older gentleman, stood tall. It's not how much money you have but how much heart you invest in your community that counts. We will not be bought or sold. A roar of agreement cascaded through the group. Jake's heart surged. He glanced at Ryan, who looked genuinely rattled. But just as victory felt within reach, Ryan smirked again. You think you can all band together? The truth about dreams is you need power. And if you think I'm done here, you're mistaken. With that, Ryan turned and strode away, leaving tension that felt sharper than before. Jake's pulse raced. What more did Ryan have up his sleeve? The air was thick with uncertainty. Were they truly ready to face an oncoming storm, or would they falter? As Jake met the gazes of those around him, determination sparked within him. They couldn't afford to lose this battle. It was about more than just Maplewood. It was about standing strong against the shadows of the past while forging a brighter future. Could they rise together and confront whatever Ryan planned next? Time would tell, but one thing was clear: they stood on the precipice of a moment that would define them. What was Ryan's next move? The sun dipped lower behind the trees, casting long shadows across the town square. The crowd, once so vibrant with enthusiasm, now felt like a ship languishing in murky waters. Jake watched as people exchanged anxious glances, their earlier resolve fading like morning mist. Gather around. Jake urged, raising his voice in a desperate attempt to rally them. We can't let Ryan manipulate our fears. We need to stay united. But even as he spoke, doubt gnawed at him. Could they really withstand whatever threat he was bringing? Suddenly, a familiar voice broke through the tension. It was Daisy, the town's librarian and heart of the community. Jake's right, she called out, stepping forward. We've spent generations building this place. We've shared our stories, our hardships, and our victories. Don't we owe it to ourselves to protect it? A ripple of agreement flowed through the crowd, igniting a flicker of hope in Jake's heart. He recalled the last book club meeting where Daisy had spoken passionately about the town's history, about how every brick laid in Maplewood represented a family's dreams. We cannot forget the value of what we have, she continued, her voice steady, but then he noticed Ryan lingering at the edge of their gathering, arms crossed, a smirk playing on his lips. All this talk about dreams and history, he jeered, but where has it gotten you? Look around. You think sentiment will save you when the real world is knocking? The past is just a ghost, it won't feed your families or pay your bills. That hit hard, and the crowd shifted uncomfortably again. Each soul felt the weight of practicality weighing down their ideals. Jake sensed the uncertainty creeping back, threatening to pull them apart. He took a step closer to Ryan, feeling the battle between them intensify. We may be facing uncertainty, but we have something that you can't buy: community. Our hearts are tied here, and we won't let you tear us apart. Ryan's eyes narrowed, and for a brief moment, Jake saw something deeper: a flicker of vulnerability. Was it doubt or fear? Before Jake could pursue it, Ryan scoffed, "Community, huh? Let me show you how easy it is to twist that ideal. What happens when I reveal what your precious town thinks of you? You think they'll stick together when they see how easily alliances dissolve?" A wave of unease swept through the crowd. Jake's stomach lurched. What did Ryan have planned? Ryan had always been cunning, and he often wielded information like a weapon. Enough! Jake shouted, feeling the fire ignite within him. Whatever you think you have against us, it won't weaken our bond. We're here for each other, not for grandstanding. But just then, an unexpected figure emerged from the back of the crowd. It was Colleen, a waitress at the local diner, and someone Ryan had wronged years ago. "You don't get it, Ryan," she said, pointing at him defiantly. "We're not afraid of you or your money. We've built a place for everyone, where we lift each other up even when the odds are stacked against us." The crowd began to stir with energy, emboldened by Colleen's encouragement. Jake spotted a few familiar faces nodding along, their resolve rekindled. Let us stand tall. Let us show Ryan that he is mistaken if he thinks he can intimidate us. This is our home, and we won't go down without a fight. Jake exclaimed, feeling the momentum shift. Ryan, losing the grip he had over the crowd, shot back coldly, "You think this is about intimidation, Jake? Just wait until the truth about your precious Maplewood comes to light. I can assure you, it's far worse than you think." And with that, he turned and marched away, leaving behind a brewing storm of uncertainty. Jake's heart raced. What truth was Ryan hiding? Would it tear them apart or bolster their solidarity? As he stood there, surrounded by the people he cared about, he knew the fight for Maplewood was just beginning. They had to uncover the truth before it became a weapon against them. What terrible revelation lurked in the shadows, waiting to emerge? The crowd began to murmur among themselves as Ryan's words hung in the air like an ominous cloud, threatening to burst. Jake could see the worry etched on the faces around him. Daisy, Colleen, even some of the children who had been playing nearby had stopped, their laughter replaced by anxious silence. "Listen," Jake called out, trying to keep the energy positive. "Whatever Ryan thinks he has, we need to face it together. Let us not be blindsided. We know each other, we trust each other." His voice trembled slightly, but he pushed on, drawing strength from the faces in front of him. Colleen stepped closer, her eyes unwavering. "We've built a life here. Every one of us has a story, a dream tied to this place. Those stories matter. We're more than just a history, we're living, breathing hope. We won't let a bully scare our community away." With every passing moment, the flickering flame of determination grew stronger. Jake could feel it, the air was electric with newfound energy. He shot a glance at Daisy, who was nodding vigorously. "What can we do?" She already knew the answer. "Let us hold a town meeting," Jake suggested, his heart pounding with adrenaline. Invite everyone. We need to talk about what Ryan might expose, and we need to be prepared. If there's dirt, let us lay it out ourselves. No secrets and no shadows. Daisy squared her shoulders, a fire in her eyes. Yes. Let us celebrate Maplewood. Show everyone how resilient we are. We start with what makes this town beautiful: the people. Tonight. Jake declared, feeling it come alive. Let us gather all of Maplewood. I'll get the banners and the flyers. We'll make it a real event, and everyone lifts their voice. Show that Ryan can't tear us apart. As the crowd erupted in talk, enthusiasm surged back into their spirits. People began to clap, some even cheering, while others shared ideas for the meeting. But just as hope seemed to flourish, Jake caught sight of someone at the edge of the square: Evelyn, a quiet artist who usually kept to herself. She seemed troubled. Jake approached her, concern etched on his face. Evelyn, what's wrong? She hesitated, glancing away as if the very thought pained her. I know something about Ryan, she admitted finally, her voice low. It's not just words he's threatening with. There are files, evidence that could make or break people here, myself included. Jake felt the atmosphere shift again. What do you mean? I was never going to tell anyone, but she hesitated again, searching for strength within herself. If we're having this meeting, maybe it's time. I don't want to see the town fall apart because of secrets. Jake swallowed hard, her revelation adding another layer of urgency. We need you, Evelyn. Your voice matters. If Ryan holds this over us, knowing is our only weapon. But we can only fight if we stand together. As twilight settled over Maplewood, the spirit of unity solidified, yet an undercurrent of fear lingered. They were standing on the edge of something big, a potential turning point, but the shadows still loomed. With the meeting to prepare and newfound secrets unfolding, Jake felt an overwhelming sense of responsibility. What more would come to light? Would the past build bridges or barriers? That night, as he looked into the faces of his friends, he felt that they were on the brink of a transformative moment. And yet, Ryan's warning lingered like a haunting melody, reminding them that the truth could sometimes hurt more than the lies. What other secrets would be revealed, and how would they change the fight for Maplewood? The day of the town hall meeting dawned bright and clear, but the uncertainty hung in the air like a heavy fog. Jake stood outside the town hall, feeling the pulse of excitement and dread all around him. He could see his neighbors, friends, and the familiar faces of Maplewood trickle in, but the anxious whispers and furtive glances didn't escape him. They were unified in purpose yet divided by fear. Hey, Jake. Mara called out as she pushed through the crowd, determination radiating off her. Are you ready? No, he admitted, a hint of humor in his voice despite the quivering in his heart. But I will be. Inside, the room began to fill, the chatter rising like a tide. Banners decorated the walls, painted with words like unity and together we rise. Jake glanced at his family, who were smiling through the tension, their presence igniting a flicker of hope. As the clock struck 7, Jake stepped up to the podium, the air thick with anticipation. Welcome, everyone. His voice broke slightly, and he steadied himself. Thank you all for being here tonight. We find ourselves at a crossroads, facing challenges that threaten to divide us. But we are Maplewood. We are resilient. A flicker of agreement pulsed through the crowd, and he knew this was their moment. Tonight, we'll share our stories, our truths. Because together, we can build a brighter future. The first few speakers shared their tales, stories of struggles and triumphs that painted the essence of Maplewood. Each voice spilled warmth into the room, igniting a sense of togetherness as they recounted memories that bound them as a community. Then, as the night wore on, Jake caught a glimpse of Ryan standing in the back, his arms crossed, an expression of disbelief plastered on his face. Fueled by the energy in the room, Jake pressed on. If there's anyone who understands what's at stake, it's us. He gestured to the crowd. Look around. Each of us is woven into the fabric of this place. We're not just numbers on a spreadsheet. A rising murmur echoed through his supporters, bolstered by the sincerity of their shared stories. Just then, Evelyn stood up, her voice shaky but determined. "Everyone," she began, "I have to tell you how Ryan has been misleading you, especially towards art and our town's heritage." The room grew silent, eyes focused on her. He's hid away documents that could help our communities thrive, all while claiming to rebuild what we've lost. He weaponizes a past that can unite us. Gasps rippled through the gathering as Jake turned, eyes locked on Ryan, who looked genuinely rattled. This revelation shifted the energy, igniting a fire among them. "Do you see?" Jake pressed. "This is exactly why we need to come together. We're not just fighting for dreams, we're fighting against manipulation, against lies." "I'm not manipulating anyone." Ryan shot back, his voice echoing as he stepped forward. "You all are just too weak to accept change." Jake shook his head. "No, Ryan. Change doesn't mean tearing down what we have built together. It means lifting each other up." The crowd began to murmur in agreement, some shouting, "Stand together. And we want a future, not further divide." Ryan's confidence began to crack, the crowd rising like a wave, bolstered by the shared strength. "You think by shouting louder you'll win?" he challenged, but even he could feel the energy shift beneath him. "Jake speaks from the heart," someone called out, "and we trust him." The atmosphere became electric, every person finding their voice, highlighting the love they had for their community. As the flow of energy intensified, Jake could see the walls around Ryan crumbling, the facade wavering like a house built on sand. "You can't silence us anymore," Jake shouted, the sound echoing through the hall, resonating in every heart present. This was a moment they could not forget, it was a rallying cry. In that climactic moment, Ryan's bravado slipped, revealing vulnerability beneath layers of greed. Jake took a deep breath and continued, "This isn't over. But we can shape our future. Together." Jake's heart raced as cheers erupted around him. In the following days, the tension eased as they began to build foundations of new projects, community gardens, workshops, and art festivals. Ryan eventually retreated, finding that Maplewood's spirit was not something he could simply buy, and while the past lingered in the air like a shadow, the town forged ahead, united in purpose, a collective determined to nurture dreams worth cherishing. One evening, as Jake stood on his porch watching his children play with others, he felt warm happiness wrap around him. These are the moments they fought for, a community thriving on love, strength, and shared purpose. As the dusk settled, Jake smiled wide, feeling hope flourish, the weeds of doubt subsiding. Maplewood was not just a place, it was a family. A family that would always rise together. This was true victory. That if you felt inspired by tonight's story, then you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support as we uncover more incredible tales together. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm so we can continue to bring you these exclusive narratives. Also, comment below your favorite part of tonight's conclusion and how it touched your heart. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Together, we can spread hope far and wide.